Welcome back to the show. Dana and I are just like on a mind groove.
Yeah.
We're like mind grooving.
We're
But
trying to figure out what we want to talk about and how we would put words to it, which is sort of the struggle,
which is
right?
a struggle. I think that's a good segue, Dana, because
Mhm.
we're talking about the power of language, but two, the need for labels.
Right.
I think anyone that's been listening to our podcast for any amount of time
Mhm.
understand, well, I hope they understand that Dana and I are not label focused, right? We don't want to
Right.
label people in this um pathological
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
However, or I should say, and we
Yeah.
also have to use labels in order to help people access services and supports in the
That's right.
current system that
That's
we
right.
have today. So,
Yeah.
how do we work with labels in a
hmm
way that helps people versus hurt them?
Yeah. And it's so hard, right? Because like once you put the label out there, it's out there. And that you don't have control over it anymore because you don't know who it's going to land on.
Yep.
It could land on another person who's like-minded like us and say, okay, that's a word, but I'm not going to assume I know what all that means. Or it could land on someone and that one word is like, boom, you don't get whatever you're sort of applying for. What pops up in my head is having done an assessment recently, when probably for you too, when I do assessment reports, they're very long. I try to give just as rich and deep of a description as I can about what's going on with those various measures, yada yada. And then sometimes people will want a summary of that. For example, if they had to show it to their family or get an accommodation at work, they don't want to hand them this whole huge, deep personal report. You're not going to do that. And more recently, someone who's taking a licensing exam for their discipline wanted an accommodation letter for that. So what I did with that was let's shift the focus and use the words that are more about having to take this licensing exam, right?
Yeah.
Look up a little bit about that licensing exam. How often is it offered? What's that like? If they have to sit for a period of 6 hours over a test and doing this test thing, what might this person need? So I would be using verbiage and buzzwords and things like that that are very different than the general report that for me, I tend to write in a very neuroaffirming way
Mm-hmm.
and to try to purposely avoid marginalizing labels.
Yeah.
I still every time you do a report, people need a diagnosis. I still cringe and hear the record screeching every time I have my little DSM code section or the ICD. It
ICD.
still always
Yeah.
feels like I know this is necessary, but and I think it's coming up against what you're talking about. You showed that one label to people out there, and there's all these assumptions that they may jump to, right? That's sort of the bad edge of a label. But a good edge of a label, I think about something like what is your pronoun that you go by? And that really is important for someone to be called by the correct pronoun. In that case, you know, so it is necessary, but it also can be really confining depending on who it lands on, right?
Yeah, and it's like, how do we make it functional? And I think
Yeah.
that it's and I feel the same way whenever I'm writing a report, because I'm typically writing a report to actually access services, right? So whether that's
Yeah.
accommodations at the collegiate level, or accessing specific services and supports with a regional center here in California,
Uh,
or needing to get a specific accommodation in a classroom, like in high school. Like, I
so
have to write,
you're writing to those audiences, right?
right. I
Yeah,
have to
yeah,
write a functional limitations. Like, I do
yeah,
have to write about, like,
yeah.
this is the diagnosis. This is a functional limitation because of this
Mhm.
diagnosis. And this is the accommodation that makes it fair.
Yeah,
Makes
yeah.
right, right. but I have to lay it out that way.
Yeah.
There's no other way to lay it out because it's not accepted. Like,
That's what they're
so
requiring for, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
correct.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And so I struggle with that. Clearly, I don't treat the person this way.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
clearly, I try to make my report as neuroaffirming as possible.
Mhm.
And I really try to empower student or person centered planning and choice and self determination. And
Right.
like, I try to do all of that. But at the end, I do have to set up an argument
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is based on a diagnosis.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I learned. I was going to say growing up in grad school, growing up in grad school. It
Yeah.
was always about everything that's in the report should yoke back to two things. One, the presenting problem we call, or the reason you're writing
Mm-hmm.
doing the assessment.
Yeah.
And then also should always reflect that the diagnosis or the findings or the thing that you're talking about in there. In that case, accommodations. If it's for someone to understand themselves fully and they're not necessarily using it for that, uh, which is why I kind of break it down to sections. And when I get to the diagnosis, or if there is accommodations, those things sound more, I'll say, boilerplate, because they sort of like what you're talking about, an accommodation at work. Well, what kinds of accommodations? Getting written communication, being able to use headphones or other sensory input sorts of things, and the things that you would expect that do work well and that are sort of fall under an ADA accommodation that a workplace should
Yeah.
give. And
Yep.
those are always going to sound more boilerplate, whether they apply to that person directly or not at that
Yeah.
point in time. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so, I mean, the other thing that brought Dan and I to this place was also just the words that we use today to describe neurodivergence.
yeah,
You know, uh, there's this, people will not agree with um person centered first language, meaning I'm autistic, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
versus, right?
I have,
An
yeah.
identity, an identity kind of versus like
Mm-hmm,
I'm a person with autism, right? These are all
mm-hmm,
personal
mm-hmm,
preferences that we respect, just like a pronoun or just like, right? We
mm-hmm,
respect these kind of wishes or requests.
mm-hmm,
I struggle still with when do I use the word neurodivergent? Okay, I'm getting better with that. That's for a
mm-hmm.
person, that's an individual. Oh,
Oh,
when
yeah,
do I use neurodiverse? Oh, that's with a group of
yeah,
people. Oh, when do I
yeah,
use neurodivergence? Okay, that is right. That's a concept. Like
yeah,
this theoretical concept. And I struggle. I still struggle with
yeah.
that. How about like people don't even want to use the word neurotypical? Like
Yeah,
I
some will
don't.
say allistic or something.
Yes,
They'll
a
use another
listic
label
would
for it.
be.
Yeah, that's sort
Mm-hmm.
of a personal preference thing too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But some of it has its roots in the emergence of those labels, though, is good and it has its origins in fighting oppression. So that part is good. I brought this up to begin with because I just saw something, a meme or something that I was like, oh, and it was, the labels around. It was coming at it from an ableist standpoint, like let's challenge that. But it was the labels around something like that aren't really like functional labels necessarily. They really are the level to which neurotypicals are uncomfortable. And I was like, oh yeah, they nailed it, right? But that sense of, and you can look to other cultures that have disabled folks in any form, and there isn't the labels. The culture just sort of moves around them. And then there are other cultures where it's extremely taboo. And if you, for example, if you had a disabled child, you just sort of hide them and don't
Yeah.
let the world know they exist. And then everything in between, right? This idea of accommodations, it attempts to say this person does have this misfit with the dominant culture, and what do we need to make this person's life more reasonable given the dominant culture. I mean, that's the attempts that it's making, right? I also see people overusing it as a way to explain everything and not take any responsibility for anything, like, oh, they're disabled, i don't have to I don't have to deal with that because they're disabled, right? But then they're also the same person that's really quick to judge and say, you see someone getting out of a car in a disabled parking spot and say to them, you don't look disabled, you're walking just fine. Our personal favorites. There's a few more things to that than not. um, I recently got the sunflower lanyard that you
Oh, for
can
the
get when you're
airport?
flying.
Mhm.
Yeah, I haven't worn it yet. And it came with a little ID. And actually, this pack I got is great. It came with cards that you can hand out that explain invisible disabilities to people. And so
Mhm.
it's ridiculous that you have to do that. You shouldn't have to do that, and you don't have to. But it's nice to sort of have that, and that sense of is it okay for me to board early boarding? And even like, I want to early board. If I tell my wife I want to early board, because she's both of us are kind of like, are we going to get in trouble for stuff? Like, I did a rolling stop at a stop sign. Was that okay? It's a thing that we have just in our personalities. Is this going to be okay? Our joke is, are the police going to come and drag us away if we do this? Right. So I have all these levels of worry about it. And then I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, wait a minute, why would early boarding help me? Because that's really what I'm talking about. It's not like this privilege thing, like, oh, I'm going to early board now. To get in my seat when there's not a ton of people, to know that I have room in overhead bin to put my thing and not run out of space, because that's always a worry. To have people standing there waiting for you to get settled and get out of the aisle. And it's like, oh, but it's taken me all this time to even articulate to my own brain that this would be why I would want to take advantage of early boarding. I'm like, oh, so I think next time I fly, I'll do that. Not that I travel a lot, but I share that because it sort of is a maturation, even within a disabled person, to
Yeah.
do that, depending on where in their life they need that, let alone the judgment of they think that the police are, that my moral police, that whether you're okay to use that parking spot or do early boarding or whatever else it is you need. Those are all driven by labels and people's assumption about what the labels mean, right?
Yeah. And leaves you open for judgment.
Yes. Yeah.
Right, which I think is very challenging, because
Mm-hmm.
there's already a social awareness. It makes me laugh whenever people are like, "Oh, autistics don't have social skills," and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I will tell you that that is untrue, as a
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah.
That if anything, there is a subset of clients that I have that are autistic
Yeah.
that their social skills are so geared to doing the right thing
Yeah.
for people
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's a detriment to themselves. And I'm like,
Right.
listen, okay,
Right.
we've got social,
So
like,
I think the stereotype is that we can't read social cues, which we can, and then we over process them, like you said, to be super diligent and avoid anything. If there's 5% chance of me offending this person, I should go totally the other way.
yeah,
Yeah. And there was a recent research done on this. It's not that we misread cues, it's that we process them differently, and we're constantly having to second guess what the neurotypical world expects us to do. And
yeah,
then, so if you're doing all that processing, kind of look like a deer in the headlights where you're trying to figure it all out. It's more of a how fast does it happen and that we're doing it differently. Yeah.
yeah.
But that
Well, I,
idea to your detriment is really an important one, right? Yeah.
oh, I have clients that will appease and appease and appease and get in
Mm.
themselves into a situation that was completely uncomfortable for them, but they
Yeah. Yeah.
consented along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, like you
How did
said
that
yes,
happen?
yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, when
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
wanted no, 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 no. And you got yourself in
Yeah.
this situation and now you feel unsafe or you don't trust this other
Yeah.
person. And
So
it's like,
you have to work on saying no sooner, and that's the work, right?
that's the
Yeah.
work. That
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
work.
We're trying
But
so hard to fit in and not cause waves.
I know.
Yeah.
If
Sorry,
only
I
more
keep
neuro
cutting you off. Go.
It's right. If
Go
only
for it.
more neurotypical people would actually think about this. That's the thing
Right?
that I
Yes. Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But like, so labels, right? I think it's like, how do we functionally use labels to help people,
Yeah.
but not as a way, not as a guide or a system of how to treat them.
Yeah, yeah, or to bring judgment upon, right? Have
Yeah.
it be learning opportunities. I mean, I was sharing this example the other day telling my students about this. So where I teach, we review files and do admissions work, right? We interview people and so on. And we get a big paper packet of admission materials, including these essays, right? And sometimes when it's a trans person or a genderqueer person, they'll give a narrative about that. And I know from working with that population and being genderqueer myself, that it's not atypical for there to be what we call a suicidal narrative, right? Just to talk about like how far this person went to the cliff, or if they even attempted, and then what happened after that. Um, Not too long after I started working where I work now, talking to one of my colleagues, reading that and thinking that was so inappropriate. Why would you put that in there? Why would anybody talk about any of that outside of therapy? And I'm like, you don't know many trans people, do you? Right? We talk about it over coffee before a softball game. It's pretty common. So that sense of me sort of telling her that that's not atypical in within that group. But then we were also able to have a conversation about, was that really good judgment call for an admissions interview for a psych program? And then it actually
Mm.
depends on how they write it, right? If someone's seeming to be totally unglued and like they're having a hard time even keeping themselves contained, that might be an issue versus someone talking about it and just mentioning it and saying, this is what I learned from it. And now this is why I like psychology, because, there's that piece. So for me, I could soften that a little bit too. Like, no, it's totally a narrative there. And what's wrong with you judging that? That unfolding, that recursiveness between people, that's where the good stuff is, right? People are afraid to get into the conversation because they're going to do it wrong. Just have the conversation. Just put it out there. Leave yourself open to learning some things. And for too many autistics, I think that the
Yeah.
neurotypical ableist culture just doesn't do that enough. It just doesn't do it enough.
And what,
No.
again, like it goes back to discomfort. Or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this idea of
Who's
discomfort,
who's
right?
uncomfortable? Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
uncomfortable and how do you work with discomfort? And that
Yeah.
inevitably you're bumping up against people who are
Hmm.
different.
Yeah.
So there is inevitably going to be
Hmm.
some scratching, some bumps, some clumsiness, right? How do you do it clumsy? Like, why do
Yeah.
we have to
Yeah.
do it perfect? Like,
Yeah.
do it
People feel like they
clumsy.
have to. Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to get,
You
I'm not going to go rag on my workmate because they didn't do it perfectly. I'm like, good, go for you for making the attempt.
make the attempt.
Yeah.
Make the
Yeah.
attempt even if it's clumsy. And I think that's the other piece. Like even, this is in anxiety and even depression, right? It's like, then
Hmm.
do it sad.
Yeah.
Then do it worried.
Yeah.
But do it.
Do
Like,
it. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
do it. Whatever
Yeah.
it is, just,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
so
It's like
how
you're
do we kind
naming
of
that
manage
even
that?
the labels, you struggle sometimes, and I still do too. And
I
it almost
struggle.
grammatically doesn't sound like nerd. I was trying to do neurodivergence, neurodivergent. I was trying to do it in a grammar way, and I'm like, wait a minute, this pertains to a group. And oh, okay, so you actually even helped me see it in another level. And if you never had that discussion, you'd never get to it. It's okay.
It's okay, it's hard, and
Yeah.
again, like I'm still trying to figure out what to call myself apart from weirdo. I don't know.
Right.
I'm weird. I don't know. I completely embrace it. But
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I think it's clear to me. I was telling Dana that so many of my colleagues, and if they're listening, you know who you are. When I
Yeah.
refer to myself as neurotypical, they just laugh in my face. They're just like,
Yeah.
"You're out of your mind. Like you
You got
are."
spiciness in there somewhere. It may not fit
Right, right.
the DSM criteria, but you're not neurotypical for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Yeah, yeah,
definitely, I'm definitely wired in some different ways, which I really appreciate
yeah,
because I think it
yeah,
allows
yeah.
me to do some creative things and it allows me to make different kinds of connections and it allows me to be,
Absolutely. Yeah,
present with many, hopefully all of my clients. They feel that
yeah,
way.
yeah, for sure.
But,
Yeah, you can get
labels.
it.
So labels. How do
Hmm.
we use labels in a functional, helpful way versus in a
Yeah,
harmful way?
yeah. And
Um,
I tell people keep putting words to it till it feels like you get it all, and
yeah.
which is another way of saying avoid the one word. You don't want to give a one word answer. You want to flush it out, make it more rich, make it living rather than like the static word on a on a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not humans. We're dynamic. We're not just a one thing,
And
right?
that you can change. Your
Yeah. Oh yeah.
identity
Yeah.
changes. You change
Yep.
over time. Like
Yeah.
that's inevitable,
So
to
you become
have
a
that.
61-year-old woman that maybe is struggling with saying no too easily these days.
Well, the pendulum swings. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah. It's
what to
like,
say.
what the hell is this crap? So I'm trying not to swear. This is stupid, right? Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
be like, well, maybe I need to back off of that just a little bit right now. So it does. It's like as a kid, you're still learning. There's a developmental expectation. Like most women my age get to the point where they're like, oh, for God's sake, that
Yeah.
idea of, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
Intersecting with autism, and then now
Yeah.
there's no filter, and I'm like, ooh, I gotta rein it back just a titch.
I have Oh, yes. Dana and I have shared many a stories about
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
discovery of ourselves and
yeah.
laughing about it and moving on, right? And
I
just moving
saw
on.
this. This is related, but something fun. And the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, I'm gonna have to buy this thing because I don't like buying tchotchke sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like the things that boxers hit, like when they're hanging above it. It
Oh,
kind of looks
yeah.
like a teardrop thing. They have one that's on a post that suction cups to a countertop, and you can punch it. And I saw it and I showed it to my wife. She was like, "We have to get one of those." And then we were doing something else. But in this, when I want to say no in a bad way, maybe I should get one of those and just hit the crap out of that first before I email someone back.
Well, definitely do that because you don't want it memorialized in an email. Do
Yeah,
you know I
yeah,
saw
exactly.
I
Yeah, yeah,
saw a
yeah.
card which was so awesome, and it's like for those of you that didn't grow up with cell phones. Uh
Yeah.
and it said happy birthday to a person whose mistakes weren't memorialized, and it had like a cell phone, and I was like, "Oh my god, I talk about this all the time with my husband where I'm like,
Do you
we
want that on forever there as soon as you send it? Yeah,
our
totally.
mistakes were never permanent.
No, no.
There's no proof of all the stupid stuff that I did. Like I have it in my mind. I don't even have a
Thank
lot of it.
God.
Thank God. It's gone. Like,
I know.
anyway.
I'll think that too. Like if I want to comment on something on social media, I'm like, do I really need to? I think this. I validated myself. Do I need to put it out there? Just that this was as long as we're getting goofy, right? When we'd borrow my mom's car, she had this big, giant, heavy Cadillac thing with this woman on the front that with the wings back, one of
Oh,
those
yes. Yes.
V8,
Yeah.
huge. So I used to, and we were very responsible teenagers. Never got in trouble. We were very responsible. What she didn't know is every once in a while we'd borrow a car and we'd go out into the country roads and we'd gun it over hills. I mean, the car would like leave the pavement. And as you were saying that, I'm like, thank God there wasn't someone to be videotaping it and post it on the internet because it's like all these things we did, you have no proof. You have no
There's
proof.
no
Except
proof
for
of
now,
it.
I've admitted it right here on a podcast. But yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So, be aware of your effect on others, but also try to get them to understand where you're at. I would never do something like that now. I was 16 and stupid. You know,
It's
you
so
think you're going to
16.
live forever when you're 16. Nothing bad will
Basically
ever
just
happen.
16 because I think
Yeah.
stupid is implied.
Yeah. Not enough life yet to know. Interestingly, then I had a neighbor of mine, probably him and his buddy were doing something stupid, and he got thrown out of the car and had severe brain damage. And then after that, oh, I never did stupid stuff like that ever again. It was too personal now. It's like, oh, okay, I've
Yeah.
learned that now. Don't do
Real
that.
life experience. Some
Yeah,
some
yeah.
some people got to touch the stove and some people don't have to touch the stove, Dana.
Right? That's a good
Just
one. Yeah.
it's just
Does
some
every little kid touch the stove at some point, or do some kids
I
get
don't think
really
all kids
close?
need to do it. I
Okay,
think there are some kids that are like, "Oh, no,
this is hot. Yeah.
I saw it. I don't need to try
Yeah.
it."
Or
But I think there are some
you as
kids that
mom saying hot is enough and they believe you. Okay.
yeah.
But some kids have to. I had a neighbor, I'm totally digressing here. Uh, I think he said he was about 7 and they had a flight of stairs and he said, maybe he had watched a cartoon with Superman or something like that. And he's like, I'm going to do the Superman thing. And he got hurt. He hurt his arm. He had to go to the ER. And he gets home, he's telling us the story. And knowing him, I'm like, oh, there's more coming, isn't there? He says, I, in my mind, figured out that the reason that happened is because I didn't have a cape. So he puts a towel, makes a cape, jumps again, hurts himself again, goes to the ER again. And then they called in a social worker because
Of
I
course.
thought that maybe the parents were, but the social worker just asked him as a little kid, why did you do this? And he explained it. And she said, there are some kids that touch the stove. Tends to be more in boys. They're more risk takers. But she's like, yeah, this is one of those kids. Yep.
Some kids need to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
They,
apologize to all the parents out there who have children that need to touch the stove and sometimes need to
yeah.
touch it more than once. And I don't know what to tell
Yeah. Yeah.
you apart from
Yeah. Yeah.
do your
It
best and be
happens.
patient.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hang
Yeah.
in there, everyone.
Yeah. I'm trying to relate this to our topic to bring it back around. Like, why did we get all the way over here aside from just having fun? That sense, oh, don't judge because there's always going to be like those tails of the normal curve. People are
Yeah.
out here. I think the example that I gave about the trans suicide narrative was I was in a tail in terms of wanting to normalize it, and my colleague was in the other tail, like what the hell's happening?
Yeah.
And we tried to meet somewhere in the middle, which was really nice. So like we had a conversation about it. It was a hard conversation. I could feel myself getting activated and sort of irritated. And then afterwards, she actually thanked me for sort of hanging in with that. And that sort of taught me too, like, okay, it doesn't always have to be comfortable to have these conversations, but they make an impact, right?
And
Yeah,
sometimes our most important conversations aren't comfortable.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah,
anyway.
that's right.
All right, everyone, on that note, be good to you, be good to others, and we will catch you in the next
And
episode.
don't touch hot things.
I mean, unless you think you have to.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.